Hello, everyone. Hope you guys are doing well. Let me turn that mic down a little bit. I think I'm a little hot. Turn some of that down. Turn it down a little bit. I think that's better. How are you guys doing this evening? I hope you guys are doing well. This is going to be, a little low key. It's Friday, right? I had this big presentation and all these things that I wanted to talk about when it comes to change. And I'm going to save that for probably a video, actually. I'm going to actually save that for a video. I need to get better at doing videos. I hope you guys are doing well tonight. Thank you for joining me. My name's Steve Worthy. I'm CEO of Worthy Retail U and also host of Retail Leadership, the podcast with Steve Worthy, and the live stream. We are here tonight as we focus in on retail leaders, and we focus in on helping them understand how to advance their career, how to improve their communication, but also how to understand the culture of the business in which they actually are employed in and they can grow in. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about change. It's something that I've had a great deal of experience with, and whether it's corporate change, personal change, whatever it may be, as a leader, it is inevitable that you are going to face some measure of change in your career and with your team as well. And so we're going to talk about probably the most critical aspect of change. And a lot of times, everybody knows who's ever been like to grad school or you've been in business in some measure. You've heard of John Kotter, right? He is probably like the father of the whole idea of change and change management, change leadership. And I have completely, prescribed to everything that he talks about. However, in my career, I have noticed that if we focus in on something very critical to the individual, not the corporate change, not the large sweeping changes that need to take place, because those are going to happen, but they do not happen without people, without the person to the left and to the right of you. And as a leader, there's one critical question that you have to ask, and that is, what's Wiifm? And I'm going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about Wiifm. What's in it for me? What's in it for me? And I can imagine, I'm thinking that I know this is Mr. James. How are you doing, sir? I appreciate you stopping by. And how you doing, Laura? I appreciate you. Appreciate the love. And here's why, because like you said, I'm not even in retail, but I love your take on leadership. So thank you so much. I appreciate that more than you know, because for me, at the end of the day, yes, I am in retail, and I'm a retail leader. However, my passion is all about leadership and how can I improve those individuals around me, but more importantly, how can I help you improve your leadership so that way you can become a better leader and get more out of the people that you lead. That is my ultimate goal in anything that I talk about tonight. So it's a Friday. Like last Friday, I did an impromptu live stream, and we talked about the differences between inheriting a team, and also the difference between inheriting a team and picking and choosing your own team. Major difference. If you are struggling with that, if you are thinking about that, or you feel like you're about to embark upon that journey of picking your own team compared to inheriting your team, I do ask that you go back and look at that video. I think that one is only on our only on our Facebook group channel as well. Then also, I had the amazing opportunity, two actually amazing opportunities this week. Two great opportunities. And one was actually to interview Mr. Paul Norford from London. And we talked about, this was Tuesday morning, we had the opportunity to talk about how to learn how to fail. And fail stands for first attempt in learning. Paul and I have been trying to get together probably for the last 8 months. His schedule was busy, mine was busy. But man, I'm got to tell you, there is not a more genuine person than you're going to meet than Paul Norford. He has an amazing YouTube channel as well, where he talks about products, different things that he's working with from a studio standpoint, but he also provides practical application for those individuals, professional individuals, thinking about different things within their career. Does an amazing job with that. And then, I had one of those, as James Hicks calls it, Mama, I made it type of experiences on Wednesday night with JP High-Tech. JP High-Tech is a producer. He's a marketer. He does so much more than that. I feel like I'm doing him a disservice. If you haven't checked out JP High-Tech's page or his website, please do. I had the distinct pleasure of being on his show on Wednesday night, and we spoke about imposter syndrome, leadership, which is, of course, right down my alley. And we talked about the idea of really becoming, in leadership. And this is kind of what we're going to talk a little bit about tonight. In leadership, you never get your PhD in leadership, right? You can get your paper, says you got my DBA or my PhD in leadership and all of that other good stuff, right? However, their leadership is always, for me, the idea of becoming. And you're continuously becoming because you're transforming yourself to be better and better as a leader. And I stole that line from my former pastor, who told me, Steve, you'll never get your PhD in leadership. You're always becoming. And when he talked to me about that, he forced upon me the idea of embracing change. And how do you embrace change? And we're going to talk about that tonight. But I want to make sure I recognize a couple people that have stopped in. Once again, thank you, Laura. I appreciate that so much. Yes, leaders have to know culture. They have to know the culture. And I'm gonna star that one because I want to come back to that one as well. And then, hello, Alec. How are you doing, sir? How are you doing? Such a pleasure to have you, man. If you have any questions, or anybody that's listening, anybody that wants to chime in, you have any questions or any thoughts, please don't hesitate to put them in the comments. I will always honor whatever's in the comment because that will probably spark something in my mind, and we may go down a little bit of a rabbit hole because I can do that. I tend to do that. But we'll make sure I always kind of bring it back to the topic at hand. So I appreciate that. And then Alex, I saw you on JP High-Tech Road. It was really good. It was really great. Thank you. Fascinating conversation. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. I mean, the conversation with JP, I could have spoke about all night. And I think that's what happens with everybody, all of us who are in this creative space, if you will. If you have something that you truly are passionate about, you can talk about it, and you can talk about it for a while. I don't get tired of talking about leadership or imposter syndrome or helping people grow and empower and multiply themselves as a leader as well. So this idea about change, once again, I said I was going to have all these slides, but I decided to kind of like knock against that. And I wanted to make sure I opened it up to all of you guys if you had your own take on change and what that looks like for you, where you currently are in your professional journey. But when I was approached and talked to with my pastor about you never get your PhD in leadership, he always talked about the idea about change and how to embrace change. As a former person, as a former military person, change was more of a command than it was something that I kind of just embraced based on my personal feelings. You get that? Right? When you think you're in the military, when they tell you to go right, you go right. When they tell you to go left, you go left. That's it. That's the change that you're going to get. You're going to get the change that I order you to take. And when I moved into the private sector, the idea of change was a little foreign to me, because I felt that if I asked you to do something and go this way, then you should do it based on the fact that I'm your leader, and that's the change that I'm actually invoking at this point in time. Didn't realize that I actually had to kind of win the hearts and minds and souls of people. I talked a little bit about that story last week, about the idea of picking your team and inheriting the team. And I won't recant that story, but needless to say, Victor, who was a big part of my life, focused in and told me that, Steve, that stuff doesn't work down here. I had to change up my mindset. That was a seminal moment in my life. How many of you out there, if you can, in the comments, because I really want to know, what was the seminal moment in your life? What has been a seminal moment in your life? Because if you can identify that, that will help you kind of maybe trigger a little bit about who you are right now as a leader. You can kind of look back on that seminal moment and you can be like, that's when things started to shift for me. That's when I probably started to think a little differently. And I just said that to say is because it was those moments in my life, and then culmination with that advice that I received, where I started to embrace change. And I became a student of change. I became an ambassador of change. Anytime something that needed to take place, a new initiative, a new directive, a new product, different assortments within our product lines, whatever the company, listen to me, I raised my hand for it to be part of that team, because I felt that I was able to add a little bit of value to it, because I was gung-ho about change. And here's why I'm probably gung-ho about change. Because I have the attention span of a 5-year-old. And so for me, getting bored easy is exactly it. And so somebody like me to embrace change is probably a little easy. And more importantly, I've actually had to learn how to slow down when it comes to embracing change and help other people come along for the ride. And that's where this idea of Wiifm comes into play. That's where this idea of Wiifm comes into play. I don't remember when I first heard this term. How you doing, JP? Good to have you here, buddy. I appreciate you, man. Any questions or anything you want to share, please go ahead and put it in the comments. Once again, I have no idea. I cannot recall. I tried to think about when was the first time I heard this phrase, Wiifm, what's in it for me? And I can't remember. And initially, I think I can imagine that my first take on this phrase was like, who cares? What's in it for you? Just do it, right? Don't, like Nike, just do it. Like, who cares what's in it for you? This is part of the process. This is part of of what we need to do. I don't really need to care. And over time, of course, as a leader, I really grew into the idea of understanding what's in it, not just for me. So when you're asking this question, leaders, here's the secret sauce. I'm not gonna wait till the end to give it to you, because I don't know how long I'm gonna be live. I should wait till the end, but I'm not gonna wait till the end to give it to you. What's important for me is not about you. It's about for your team. So it should be what's important for them. And so the me is really them. As a leader, I've always said this, and I will always live by this. It's not about me, it's about them. And if you're any sort of leader in any measure, you understand it's about the team. So when you start to talk about change can impact people more than you know. I'll give you a great example. Today we just had to have a conversation with someone whose position was being eliminated. Yeah. This is very timely. Their position was being eliminated today. And I had to have that conversation with them. The company I work for, thank God, they do a great job with understanding how to communicate change but you can write it down all day long. It's when you deliver that message to that person, are they going to either embrace it or are they going to fight against it? And so having to have that conversation today for me was always about, okay, I can deliver the message, but what's in it for this person? How is this going to impact them? How is this going to impact the decisions that they make tomorrow? How is this going to impact their life? How is this going to impact their life? We don't think about that a lot of times when we're looking at change. We think about it in the idea of, this is good for the company. This is, good for me. Typically, a lot of times, the change that I've had to invoke is around job elimination or job restructuring, which, of course, from a financial standpoint, if you have to think about it that way, it increases things on your bottom line. But as a leader, I've had to learn that it's about the individual and how I'm impacting them. How my decisions, whatever it may be, big, small, is impacting them personally. So as a leader, what's in it for me is the question that you need to ask. And a lot of times you may not like the answer that they give, because what you will feel, in my case sometimes, is that, hey, I didn't make this decision. I am just the messenger. I am just the messenger. However, it doesn't matter if you're just a messenger. You're the leader. You're the leader. You're the person that they're looking for advice. They're looking for solutions. You have just eliminated, you haven't done it, the company did it, but you have just eliminated their job by what you just said to them. And they will know that it's not you. Some of them may know it's not you. They'll know it's the company, but you're the one delivering the message. Please understand that. Your words carry weight as a leader. They carry an enormous amount of weight. And the minute that you are trying to that you don't want to understand that your words have weight, irrespective if the final decision comes from you or not, your words still have weight. And so that's why you have to embrace and understand, when you start to communicate the change, you have to answer the questions. So what I've done throughout my career, whenever I have to deliver a message of change, we see it all the time on websites, right? For products, or maybe even on different websites that you're looking for advice. It is called the frequently asked questions. And so Wiifm, conquering Wiifm, if you will, is all about trying to figure out what are some of those frequently asked questions that people are going to want to know when you communicate this level of change. And if you are savvy enough, you will implement those frequently asked questions into your conversation with your team. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to have all the frequently asked questions dialed in. You're not going to know of them. You're not going to know all of them. You may know a few of them. You may your team sit down and kind of strategize and I do this all the time. We sit down on a whiteboard and we put out all the potential questions that we're going to be asked. And next thing you know, I do the same thing with my clients, right? I sit down all the questions that they're going to ask about my service, about my coaching techniques and all of that stuff. And then I layer that into the conversation. So hopefully, I've been able to create some measure of solace in their minds about whatever it is that I'm telling them. Now, does that work 100% of the time? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It works the majority of the time, but if you do it appropriately, guess what? The questions that you receive are going to be less. It's not going to be this avalanche of questions of why me? What do I do about this? When is my next paycheck? What about severance? What about whatever what about my benefits? Is there going to be COBRA, right? All these different things. So when you start to think about change, you have to think about the little nuances. It's not so much the sweeping procedural product launch change. You have to think about change from an individual standpoint and what this change is going to mean for that person. I apologize if I'm harping on this because I have seen change implemented so poorly in my career. So poorly in my career that I take it personal when people are not implementing or discussing the idea of change properly. John Cotter, bear with me, we are going to be launching our resources page for our website. So everything that I talk about, there are going to be tons of books that I talk about, and I will make sure that they're available to you. But John Cotter, Kottr, has a book that I've read numerous times, and it's about leading change. And he talks about the 8 principles of leading change. And it's very well written. And it's talks about organizational change when you are trying to change the direction of an organization and you are trying to whether pivot that organization to something anew. It could be a new market. It could be something that every one of us has had to deal with here in 2020 and 2020 with COVID. A lot of retail companies, while they had services in place like pickup in store or curbside service, right? I have seen companies pivot so quickly to the curbside piece last year, more so than any other year ever. Why? Because the demand was there and people wanted it. Now, when you have to make such a sweeping change within your organization, a lot of times that comes with some speed bumps. But more importantly, if you implement it quickly, a lot of times your customers will tell you what works and what doesn't work. However, the biggest part of all of that sweeping change is the individual element. It's the individual element. And we'll talk more a little bit about that. I just want to get to some comments as well. Alex, yes indeed. Thanks. Thanks. It was really great. I appreciate that. It was. In times of change now, we need mindset reviews. I love that on it. I am thinking of books to suggest, for the group too. I love. Thank you. I'm glad you said that, Laura. I am, I have a whole bunch of books in my mind. It's a lot of you are as well read, but I want to make sure that the library of books that I have in our resource for our website covers, a spectrum, of leadership. And here's the thing, I just don't want leadership books, right? Tuesdays with Maury. I don't know how many, I'm raising my hand. I don't know how many of you have read Tuesdays with Maury. You're right. Old, not old book. It's fairly old. That book was amazing. Rainmaker by Josh Grisham. I love Josh Grisham's books, right? I love the detail in his books. I apologize. I'm going to get back on topic in shortly, but that's what happens when we go live. You can kind of dictate the flow. John Grisham's book, of course, books like Developing a Leader Within You, all those books that are, life changing. Like, that's such a big word, right? Or such a big phrase, life changing. But those books, we know that there's some books that out there that have really impacted a lot of people's life. The Present, right? 1 Minute Manager, right? I'm probably speaking to, I'm probably telling my age with some of these books, but I've got to tell you, 1 Minute Manager and The Present are books that will kind of change your life. And I don't mean that like softly. Like, I literally mean that as a leader. If you read those books, and they're probably like this thick. Both of them. What did you say? There's that series is I loved Wonder. Yes. I think my daughters read that. I have to be honest, Laura, I didn't read that, but I think my daughters read that. I think they read that in school. But there's so many different books out there. So I do ask that you provide me with some thoughts around the book. There's another book. Oh gosh. Okay, this book. Okay, I'm sorry. Got to talk about this book for a second. And I know I'm on Ecamm, and I should be able to pull it up. And I'm still learning Ecamm, and I need to get a little more swift. Doc Rock does an amazing job of pulling up websites and all of that stuff. I have to get a little more slick with that. I'm not that slick yet, and I don't mean that negatively in a slick way. I mean, he just flows it into his process. The fifth element. And I will try to make sure I put that into the comments. But the fifth element, it talks about use your phone to look it up. Oh, I love you. Thank you. That's it. I mean, I am going to, we are live. I'm going to do it right now. The fifth element. No, not the fifth element. That's a book. The fifth discipline. I'm thinking about the Bruce Willis movie. Oh, yeah, there it is. I'm live. I'm going to do this right now. I can rock and roll right with this right now. And, you can bear with me and you talk amongst yourselves. I hope you guys are having a great night. The fifth discipline. Thank you. You're 100% correct. You're 100% correct. And I am going to turn on my, what is this thing called? My NDI. And I'm going to broadcast this puppy. And let me go here. I'm going to go and add to a different scene. This is my second camera angle, but I don't care. And I'm going to change that because I can. Oh, there it is. I can change it. Oh. Bear with me. As you know, I'm trying to do this. All right, there we go. There's that. And I had it up. So here's the book. Here's the book that I wanted to recommend. The Fifth Discipline, The Art and Practice of the Learning Organization. 2006, as you can tell. Pretty old. Pretty old book. However, the principles that I learned in this book are, without a doubt, I'm going to see how much they allow us to see here. Yeah, and Peter Senge, I actually saw him speak. Gosh, he was years ago, obviously, but he talked about this process. And one of the major things, I apologize if I'm going too fast and giving you guys seasickness. I apologize. He talked about the learning organization. If you can see that part right here. He talked about the learning organizations, and this plays a role in change. It truly does. Learning organizations are possible because deep down we are all learners. No one has to teach an infant to learn. He goes on to discuss how the idea of learning something as an individual doesn't necessarily stop when you're an infant. The tendency is sometimes that we forget who we are and we forget our innate ability to continue to learn more about ourselves. The other thing that he talks about, self-mastery. Self-mastery. Whew, man. Apologize once again, I'm going off with a tangent here. But he talks about self-mastery in this book. It's a pretty thick book. And it's like one of those, like, you know, it's not like a, you know, a beach read, right? It's not a beach read. It's like you got to be like into it and really want to get something out of it to read this book. But he talks about self-mastery right there. That just messed me up when he started talking about self-mastery, because that was a part of what I was trying to understand on how to master myself, my thoughts, my character, who I wanted to be, how I connected with people, all in the context of still remaining an individual within an organization. Please get that. Please get that. One of the things that we see a lot in our clients is that, and we talked about this from a career advancement standpoint, is that they want to remain their individual self, the construct of the corporate ladder, and having to become something that they're not. Okay, I think this deserves a book list. Thank you. Make sure, Lord, make sure I put that on the book list. I don't care. I always tell myself. So there was a point in my life. My wife asked me this question. It was years ago, you know, and she said, "Why do you need so many watches?" And I'll get to what that means here shortly. So why do you need so many watches? And what had happened was that I was at a point in my career. I get this computer glare is getting to me a little bit. I'm gonna minimize that window. There we go. That should be better. I was at a point in my life where I was making pretty decent money. And when I say pretty decent money, I was making pretty decent money. And I was flying around with other executives, and we were doing private jets to different markets and all these things. And I was at home office a lot and doing all this other stuff. So I finally got to the point where I really wanted this one watch, and it begins with an R. And I said, well, I'm making enough money. I can get this. I could buy this. So I did. I bought it. I was okay with it. I was like, this is nice. Oh my gosh, I love this. And then I got a bonus check, which was outstanding. So guess what I did? I bought another one. Couple years later, still had those two, had some other watches. Ended up buying another one. I had three of these watches. Literally, and this is, please understand, this is not me boasting at all, because I was stupid. And I had three of these watches. And when she asked me that question, why do you have so many watches? I rationalized the hell out of that thing. Rationalized the hell out of it. Because I said, well, this watch is for this. This is watch when I go for HQ. This is watch when we have visits. This is watch when I go on a visit, yada, yada, yada. And what I did was I realized that I was becoming something that I didn't want to. I was trying to fit into this corporate culture of what I thought I needed to do, or I needed to fit in. Listen to me. I can hold my own in any type of communication with any CEO about earnings per share, in any business topic. I feel like I can. However, I felt like these watches made me fit in even more, and they helped define me. And it was so horrible. And so when I start talking about self-mastery, and you hear me always talk about your value system, at that point in my life, my value system had gotten corrupted because I had focused in on the external pieces to validate who I was, instead of me making sure that the internal side of me was okay. So so self-mastery from this book, I went back and I read the entire book, and it helped me understand how warped my mind was when it came to myself and my self-mastery. I allowed different things in my life to lord over me, if you will, and I allowed those things to play a more prominent role in who I was compared to who I was inside. Hopefully you guys understand that. You're following me. Alex, yeah, this sounds like my kind of book. Added to my list. Thank you. Oh, thanks for the recommendation. 100%. Oh, yeah, girl. That's it. Shiny object syndrome. Shiny object syndrome mixed with a bit of keeping up with the Joneses. And who the hell are the Joneses, by the way? Does anybody know who the Joneses are? I have no clue who these Joneses are that we always are trying to keep up with. If somebody knows in the chat, let me know who the Joneses are. Are they like a figment of our imagination? They probably are. Needed to buy status. Yeah, I don't like you, Laura, because you are right. I'm just messing with you. I appreciate that. I've been there too. I appreciate you sharing. No, 100%, man. This is what this is all about. Davy Jones Locker. Is that who that is? That's funny. So what does all this have to do with change? Let's go back to, let me just, focus. But that book literally changed my life. The fifth discipline, it set me on another. The Joneses are some other fools trying to keep up with someone else. That's exactly right. Oh my gosh. You know what? Yeah, let me tell you, because the issue was, at that point in time in my life, things were all taken, and still are, things are all taken care of financially, paid stuff, a whole bunch of stuff. So I was like, like I said, when I rationalized and justified the heck out of it, man, I did. I was like, there's no reason why I can't buy these watches. Why I can't do it. And here's the thing. Ask me if I have them today. Ask me if I have those watches, because you can't just buy those. You have to buy like the other, watches, the Panerai and all these other things that kind of go along with that status. And ask me if I have any of those watches today. No, this is what I'm rocking. I have been rocking this for years now. Because I realized that it wasn't about any of that stuff. It was about who I am inside and how I treat people, and not so much about the status and all that other stuff. So let's get back to change and Wiifm if we can, because I think the piece that I really truly wanted you guys to understand about change and about the idea of Wiifm, what's in it for me. It is truly one of the most powerful questions that you can ask yourself. One, about yourself, but two, about your team. Because there are going to be times that you want to change or you want to do something because you're the leader, and your goal and your part of your role is to be the visionary, right? Your part of your role is to see long term and to think about, my dad used to call it looking around the corners, like take a peek around the corner to see what's coming up, right? He said that to me, and kind of live by that almost as a leader. However, the issue becomes is that when you start to not think about the repercussions of your decisions and how the impact that they have and the ripple effect that they have on your team, it's pretty dangerous. Now, here's the thing that I know people are, whoever's going to be looking at this, they'll probably be like, well, that's just part of the process of being a leader, part of an organization, all these different things. I get all of that stuff. But you as the leader still have a massive role to play when it comes to the smooth execution of that change. So I had just started with the company, and we were in the process of changing up the entire format of a couple of different buildings, a couple of different stores. And being a new person, right? For me, I said, well, I can figure out how to leverage this. One of the things that happened was almost a massive revolt from the store teams on the change that we were talking about implementing for their store and their peer store. So I think I've read the book by this time. This is probably my first time I read this book, with the Fifth Discipline at this time, and the self-mastery piece and the learning organizations. Oh, okay. My apologies. I'm gonna right back. Alex, you like this. The other core piece that he talked about, Peter Senge, in this book was about systems thinking. How every component within the organization is not codependent. I guess codependent upon the other person or upon the other department. So the systems thinking, you have to take into consideration the entire system when you are thinking about implementing change, or you're thinking about doing something different even in your life. I'm telling you, interdependent. Thank you. Boom. Appreciate it. Interdependent. Thank you. Oh, I love you, Lord. You have to take all of that into consideration when you're talking about change. And so that's what I did. I focused in on the interdependency that needed to take place for the change to happen. So we had to have, I talked to my boss. I said, we need to have meetings with each department separately, because if we have it all together, what's going to happen is a cluster, you fill in the blank, because everybody's going to have their own piece to play, and their thing that they want to say, they want to put this out here, they want to say this. But if we take the system, if you will, and break it down into parts, then we can have a more robust conversation with that individual part compared to the cluster. Hope that makes sense, because that is another critical part from a change leadership standpoint, is that yes, you have the whole cluster to consider, but it's also the individual parts that you have to work with. And that's each individual part. You actually have to ask that question, Wiifm, what's in it for this individual part? And if you can succinctly and qualitatively, not so much quantitatively sometimes, because people understand the quantitative aspects of change sometimes. More money, cut costs, right? Trim down, slim, right? Lean in, all those different terms, right? They get that. But if you can qualitatively help them understand how this change is going to impact them, and then how what they do is going to impact this other person or this other department, man, you have it's not going to be smooth, but you have a recipe for some success. We were able to have a great deal of success implementing it that way. So much so that the VP of operations called me and actually asked me to do a presentation about our process and what we did. And this is the measurement that they used. Here's why. Because the Wiifm part about it, right? When you think about change, I'm getting excited here. We asked, when we talked about Wiifm, and we had the separate conversations, we asked them, what does success look like in this process? So as we making these changes, you know, I also come from a world of project management too, right? So earn value within the project. So to correlate that to like retail or any other project, it's what do we want to see? What's our goal? What's really going to define success? And 3 out of 5 came up with the idea of customer surveys, right? Because we were going to interrupt the shopping experience for those customers. Get that, right? Because we're changing up the format, all these other things. We're still keeping the stores open, but we're interrupting the shopping experience. So the metric that we used was customer satisfaction while we were going through the actual change and remodels and everything. So we had our results were green with customer surveys across the board. All of the stores were green. All of the stores. Because we made it our focus as a goal collectively. And when we did that, hey Dane, I'll put that up there in a second. And when we did that, we realized that we were successful because we had a common goal within the construct of the change. Please get that. There needs to be a goal within the construct of the change, or it's just change for change's sake. We know the ultimate goal of the change is to reduce waste, earnings per share, reduce wages, sometimes streamlining the shopping experience, for shoppers, all these different things. So the Wiifm, if you will, what's in it for me, you have to do it, compartmentally. However, you have to make sure that they understand the interdependency of the change and how it's going to impact everybody. And if you can communicate that to your team, dude, you are so far ahead. I'm going to go back to some of the comments, make sure we get everybody. Interdependent. Yep. Thank you. Help me with that one. Husband told work about his move today. How did that go? I want to know about that because he's the Netherlands, right? Not Denmark, but the Netherlands. If I'm not mistaken, I believe. He now has to do 3 weeks in the Netherlands. So there you go. You answered my question. How is that going? He has to do 3 weeks in the Netherlands. That's on my bucket list. I haven't been to the Netherlands yet, but it's on my bucket list. Actually, I don't know why, but it's on my bucket list. My one of my favorite people in the world, Miss Dana Parisi. I took a role for the quantitative benefits of what was in it for me. The qualitative benefits were not there. Ultimately, the Wiifm as a manager nearly crushed my Wiifm as a girl. Sometimes the Wiifm isn't only or even primarily the metric driven for folks we lead, especially as a thought driven leader. Oh my gosh. So Dana, I ain't gonna tell you business, but Dana just did something. She just accepted a different role, which is awesome. The qualitative benefits were not there. Ultimately, I'm gonna put that again. Ultimately, the Wiifm as a manager nearly crushed my Wiifm. Girl, you just made my night. Hopefully people are getting that. I really hope people are understanding what you just said. I really do. Oh, so you said it went well. Great. So true. You're in the education field. That's right. You know the role I'm taking, I'm talking about. Yep, exactly. I do. What's going on, Shantae? How are you doing? How's your sister, Shantae? Avia. If you guys don't know her, that's how she pronounces, how she does her name. They're identical twins, and they're amazing. Thank you, Shantae. Thank you for joining in. I appreciate that. We're talking about change a little bit, and what that means for you as an individual, and how do you work as a leader? How do you work through the construct of change, and how it's going to impact the people and impact the people around you as well, right? One of the things that I've been pretty fortunate with is the opportunity to move around to different companies. Even, I think I said this before, and those of you who listened to some of these things, I had a pretty decent stint outside of retail for project management and also post-secondary education. And what those two things taught me from a project management standpoint was a project has a beginning, has a defined beginning, and has a defined end. But the earned value within that project, earned value meaning that you can quantitatively define how much improvement that you're making through that project for that company through understanding earned value, right? I do another thing on that one. From a post-secondary education standpoint, it taught me about culture, because the schools that I had oversight for were dependent upon the attendance factor of their students, right? Just think about it. They were dependent upon the attendance factor of their students, because the attendance piece impacted financial aid. And so if you had low attendance, the students were not going to receive the financial aid, which in essence funds the school. And I had a different portfolio of different schools in different industries. So for me, it taught me culture. It taught me how to implement a culture of retention, and how do you build that within your organization, even from a retail standpoint. The Wiifm, once again, we talked about that from a cultural standpoint, from post-secondary education, was how do you implement a culture where students want to come, where people want to go. And so if you understand how to implement a solid culture where people are feel like they're missing out if they don't come for a day, then that's what you want to do. That's the culture that you want to create. So I was able to use a lot of those thought processes and bring them into kind of the retail mindset. So when we start to talk about change, those two pieces, understanding culture and then understanding the elements of a project. It has a defined end and it has a defined beginning. And as a leader, when you implement change, here's the other piece, is that people want to know when it's going to end. They want to know, is this enough? How much more do we have to change? How much more is there going to be? If you can, in some measure, define what that end is going to be, right? But a lot of times you don't. If there is a defined end, you need to speak to that. If there isn't, then you have to let the team know. And Dana's probably proof to this, is that whenever you're about to implement a change in your leadership, a change in the way that you do things, a change in the process and routines, you have to communicate it to your team. I know that sounds like rudimentary, right? I know you're like, Steve, I get that. Listen to me, a lot of leaders don't get that. They will just try to implement the change and not talk about the Wiifm, but also talk about, why this is important. Or, hey, I'm going to be asking a little bit more of you as we go through this project. And here are the 3 things. I'm a big fan of the 3, the power of 3. And here are the 3 things that I'm going to be asking from you. And if you can do that, guess what? It doesn't happen 100% of the time, but the majority of the time you will get people to buy into what it is that you have to say and what it is that you're actually doing and the goal that you're trying to meet as a leader. I'm going to go to the comments. Yes, I have. Yes, I have. Steve, have you read Start With Why? Yes, by Simon. Oh, absolutely. Love the idea. People don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. 100%. Paul Norfort. This little office studio gets a little hot, so I apologize. I keep having to take a swig of water. Paul Norfort. Please, and Dana, if you haven't seen it, go back and look at Paul and Shantae, and go look at my interview with Paul Norfort on Tuesday. It was amazing. But he says people buy from people. But what he also said is that people buy from people that they trust. And it's not just buying, right? It's not just the idea of buying like goods. It's about buying your persona, right? Trust is a new exchange nowadays. Like Alec, I haven't met Alec before at all. Alec's up here in the comments. I haven't met Alec at all. But by looking at his material, looking at what he's doing from a live stream standpoint, there is a great deal of trust that I have for Alec and what he's doing because of what he's presenting and how he's presenting it. So when you start to think about, just to go back to Dana's, let me make sure I got it up there. But I want to make sure I see it. Is that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Please understand that. That's a great quote. That is a great book. Thank you, sir. We are also in retail. Yes, you are, Dana. Yes, you are. You have to prepare people for what's coming and be vulnerable enough to explain why the change is needed, especially if it's outside of what you normally ask people to do. Oh gosh, I wish I had some money to give you. Like I can give you some dollars or something, Dana, for that, because you're 100% correct. I love that last part, especially if it's outside of what you normally ask people to do. So when you're talking about implementing change and you're talking about taking a person from their measure of comfort zone to their discomfort of something that, man, I'm so used to doing it this way, Steve. What is this? What is it going to mean for my hours? I'm on a fixed schedule. Oh my gosh, I really like working with Dana. So you're telling me that I'm not going to be able to work with Dana anymore? So you're telling me that my position is eliminated and I have to drop down a role that's going to take $2 or $3. $2 or $3 for somebody's salary is a lot, or for somebody's pay is a lot. So you're telling me that's what I got to do? Yeah. That's what I'm telling you got to do. Try having those conversations, because the change isn't just about you or the organization. It's about that person. What's in it for them? Why should I take $2 to $3 less? Just because the company said so? No, because hopefully you have built up enough personhood leadership where people want to follow you irrespective of the money. So, Dana, the leaders who do this the best are the ones who have teams willing to run through a wall for them. Yes, sometimes even without really having a lot of Wiifm individually. Oh man, I hate you, Dana, because you know what? I gotta bring you on the live stream. Actually, I gotta bring you on the live stream. because I know actually next Friday, let me know if you're free next Friday. We can do it. We can talk about a whole bunch of things. And Dana knows, I talk all day long about this guy named Jim Hogan. And she probably got that phrase from me, run through a wall. Jim Hogan could call me and ask me to do something. And I'll be like, what is it? Like, done. And I do it. How many of you have a person in your life, have a leader, have a mentor, have a coach, a peer even, that if they ask you to do something, you don't need a Wiifm. You just do it because of who they are as a leader. There is nothing in my years of leadership more powerful. My old pastor, he said, Steve, if you want to know how good of a leader you are, lead a team of volunteers. So get that. Lead a team of volunteers. Why do I want to lead a team of volunteers? Somebody put that in it. Somebody answer that for me. Somebody answer that for me. Why is it important for me to be able to successfully lead a team of volunteers? I am going to wait because I know I got some super smart people who are here. I'm going to wait. Why is it important, or why was it important for me to lead a team of volunteers? Somebody answer that question. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait, and I know there's probably a little bit of a delay, because when he told me that, I'm gonna still answer. I'm gonna wait for the answer, because when he told me that, it blew my mind. It really did. It really did. That's a good answer. That's a good answer, Laura. That's a good answer. That's a good answer. Dana, you cheated because you know me. You cheated because you know me. Because the volunteers have no personal gain for participating except the satisfaction of being a part of a team. No Wiifm. No Wiifm. And guidance. And I like what you said, Laura. And guidance. So when he told me to be, he actually assigned me. He actually assigned me to lead a volunteer event. And I tell you, it was one of the hardest things that I ever had to do, because I'm leading a team of people. I'm not responsible for a paycheck with these people. I'm not responsible for a paycheck. I am literally just leadership in its purest terms. I am just leading them without any ulterior motive. I can't give them anybody a benefit other than the benefit of what we're trying to do based on this volunteer event. Period. That's it. That's it. Guidance. Yeah. Yeah. Women do it all the time. You see at the local PTA. Exactly. Oh, Alec, here you go. Because they are not financially motivated to follow you. They are following you because you are a strong leader. Exactly. Serving the board. Board, same thing. Agreed. This is the pain and it has to, but good learning experience. But I'm going to go back to Alex's his statement. Because they are not financially motivated to follow you. They are following you because you are a strong leader. So, how long have I been on this thing? Over an hour. So to now wrap it up. But think about that. Think about the people that when it comes time for change, and you're thinking about what you need to do for that change. So I am part of the this eCam community, which is what I'm Actually, this is the software that I'm using right now. I'm not doing anything fancy tonight. I just felt I wanted to keep it simple. But I'm part of this Ecamm community, and it's run by these twins. I think they live in Boston, if I'm not mistaken. I believe they do. And the thing about it is that the community is amazing. It is amazing. It's full of outstanding leaders. The diversity, the sheer diversity of businesses, business industries that use Ecamm community is ridiculous. I mean, it's fitness, telecommunications, judges, lawyers, doctors, coaches, you name it, right? But we all use this platform because we trust what the brothers are doing. We trust what the twins are doing, and that they have our success in mind. The community has my individual success in mind. I have gone live and tested so many times in the community, gotten feedback, got some thoughts. Hey, do this differently. Hey, what about that? Implement it all. Same thing when we start talking about change with people. It is important. It's important that you embrace their thoughts, their fears, the unknowns, that they don't know what's going to happen. And here's the thing. A lot of times you don't know. Andy Stanley said it the best. He said, as a leader, even in times of uncertainty, you have to be certain. Sounds right? Paradoxical, right? It does. In times of uncertainty, as a leader, you need to be certain. You need to be a person's or a team's true north. They can look to you as a fixed point. I stole that line from Pacific Rim. I stole that line from one of my favorite actors, Idris Elba. Alex, as a Brit, you probably know that line. But in Pacific Rim, I stole that line because I love that line. He said, I don't have to do anything but to be a fixed point, meaning that anytime you need to make a decision or you have a thought and you want clarity, I am that fixed point. Come to me and I will give you the truth, period. As a leader, sometimes we need to be that fixed point when it comes to change, because the change is going to overwhelm some people. As a leader, it may even overwhelm you, but you can't let people know that it's overwhelming you. You have to be that fixed point of understanding the good, the bad, and the ugly and taking it all in. You have to be able to understand the Wiifm, understand how people are feeling, because if you don't, the level of change that you need to have, or that needs to take place, will never happen. Wiifm, it is the key. It is the key to your success as a leader and also as a change leader. I'm going to close this up, see if I have any more comments. You said you're serving the board. This is the pain. I'm sorry, I think I read that one. Amazing community. Thank you, Alec. I have never experienced such a welcoming and supportive community. Exactly. Centered around a piece of software, right? I 100% agree. I am I want to make sure I get everybody. I'm not even Apple, but I fangirl the Ecamm people. I met Lita. I'm glad you said that. I was actually just about to talk about that. Laura and Doc are both agreed. So and Laura, I guess you're doing it as well. They are not. I'm not being paid by Ecamm or live streaming pros, but those of you who are thinking about doing something different, like a live stream, I did, and Laura did it too. That's where I met Laura. Is that we did LEDA, and what LEDA stands for is live each and every day in April. However, we have another one coming up next month, actually Sunday, live each and every day in August. There are few things. Peter Sinji's book, my seminal moment in the Air Force, the birth of my oldest daughter, Kayla, all three of our girls, my wife and all three of our girls. Gosh, connecting with Jim Hogan. There are those moments in your life that you can look back on and you can say that they changed your life. And I don't say this flippantly. LEDA in August changed my life. Like, I would not be doing what I'm doing right now, talking to you, not caring how many people are listening, how many people are commenting. Don't care. I want to get the content out, because if it's only for one person to hear this and they make a change, dude, I'm good. So LEDA has helped me do that. So I'm gonna be embarking on another LEDA for August as well. So I'm pretty stoked about that. It says he's doing LEDA this time. Excellent. Well, I look forward to connecting with you, sir. I'm working next Friday night, but I would definitely be honored to chat with you at some point. Absolutely. We got to connect. So it is 8:18. I always try to keep these things under an hour, but sometimes I don't. It doesn't happen. So I don't know. You know what? I'm thinking about doing another live, like impromptu at 9:00. I don't know. I was thinking about doing a behind the scenes, a little bit of the office setup. I don't know. I may do that. I may not. I truly appreciate all of you. If you are catching this on the replay, please add your thoughts, your comments, your questions, anything that you want. Like, I am an open book. I want to talk to you about anything. If there's anything on your mind that you're thinking about that concerns you about change, you're fearful of change, you can't get your team's buy-in for change, please ask me. We can connect, right? We can do a Zoom call free of charge. Doesn't matter. I can walk you through some of this stuff and help you kind of understand what you need to go through, what you need to do to implement the change that is necessary for your success, but more importantly, the success of your team. Oh, you're in Thailand? I didn't know that. Oh man, thanks, Steve. It's 7:30 a.m. in Thailand, and it's been a great start to the day. Thank you. Oh man, I appreciate you, dude. You just made my night. Alec. I appreciate you so much. All right, everybody. Let me make sure I get this set and sorted properly. I want to make sure I end this accordingly as well. Is this it? All right. As I always say, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your thoughts, your perspective. I've learned a lot in speaking and then hearing the comments. But more importantly, I do hope that you've learned something about leading change, in your professional life and what that looks like. So have a great night and God bless.